Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I just got back from visiting the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for the first time. I had an amazing 4.5 days. It was such a fun experience and I managed to do 20 theatre visits. So I thought, rather than waiting until the end of the month to do my usual curtain up, I thought I would tell you about all of the shows that I saw now. So if you're heading up to the Fringe in the next couple of weeks, then you'll still have a chance to maybe catch some of these shows. Obviously, for quite a few of these shows there will be vlogs coming out very soon, hopefully, and they'll be linked in the description down below. But for some shows I won't be vlogging, and therefore I will talk a bit more about them in this video here. Also, I thought if I left it till the end of the month and did all of this in curtain up, it would be like an hour-long curtain up episode that no one would watch. So I thought best to split them up, and that's what I'm gonna do today. I was a little bit spontaneous when it came to booking shows at the Fringe. I had sort of a rough schedule of what I thought I'd be able to see. I'd say for the most part I did stick to that, but then there were a couple of random shows that were added in here and there that I didn't think would be on my list necessarily. I did make a video before I went up to Edinburgh talking about the shows that I was definitely going to be seeing and the ones that I really wanted to see but they're on when I'm not there. So if you want to check that out for a more brief video of recommendations, it'll be linked up in the corner of the video, up here I think, or over there, can't remember, and also linked in the description as well, so you can check that out if you want. But anyway, yes, so I went up to the Fringe. I'd booked 2 of the shows because I knew that they were selling out quite quickly and I wanted to make sure I had tickets for those days. And everything else I kind of booked a bit on the fly. So I went up to Edinburgh on the Sunday. It was the 5th of August and I got the train up from King's Cross, which was really lovely actually. It meant that I could get some editing done on the way up there. It was just a really nice journey actually, and I was originally going to fly, but then I worked out that by the time I got to the airport and things like that, it was just easier to take the train and pretty much the same price, so I'm really glad I made that decision. So I got up to Edinburgh, I checked into my hostel and then immediately just freshened up and left to start seeing shows. So the first show that I saw was a musical called Mess. I'd kind of maybe describe it more as a play with music rather than a musical. It was a two-hander and it was about 2 friends, so a guy and a girl. And the premise of it was basically the girl was having a really rough night and she just needed her friend to rant and get some support from. And basically she just found out that her very recent ex-boyfriend had already become engaged to someone else. So I feel like it was kind of a nice normal story to deal with. It wasn't anything kind of too far-fetched, like this type of thing can happen all the time, you know? That was a really interesting one to start things off on. I did enjoy it, but I stupidly sat on the side where the band were. So because they didn't have any microphones, it was quite hard to hear them at points. I learnt very quickly to sit on the other side of the room from the band so it doesn't distort too much, because obviously there are loads of random venues at the Fringe. I saw shows in hotel meeting rooms and lecture rooms and loads of random spaces. So yeah, if you're going to the Fringe this year or in the future, that's something to bear in mind. I think a good little tip to remember, don't sit on the side that the band is on, because that might disrupt your enjoyment of the show. I wouldn't say that Mess was my favourite show of the trip, but I'm glad that it's one that I saw. It was quite a nice easy one to start the trip off on. The second show that I saw was one that I was very excited about. It was one that I'd already booked in advance, and this was Six the Musical. If you're following me on social media, you know I'm obsessed with Six the Musical. I saw it back at the Arts Theatre in January and I've been impatiently waiting for it to come back. So when I knew it was going to the Fringe, and my friend Sean was doing a play at the Fringe as well, so I was like, well, I'm gonna go up to the Edinburgh Fringe and I'm gonna end up seeing Six as well. So that was the second show of the trip, and my friends Sean and Abby came along with me. They'd already seen it. This was their second time seeing it, so they saw it a few days before that and they loved it so much that I was like, well, you should come along with me on Sunday and see it. And they did, and we had so much fun. Oh my god, I love this show. And it was really nice to see the new queens. Oh my god, It's amazing. And then that night I also managed to fit in one more show, and that was a musical called Lucky, which has been put on by the Cambridge University Musical Theatre Society. I'd heard good things about the show and the society's like work as a whole, so I was really intrigued. I did enjoy the premise of it, but again, I think with the fact that you don't have like microphones or the sound's a bit like not perfect, that affected my enjoyment of it, I think. Lucky is about a girl whose mum suddenly passes away, and basically she then has to go live with her dad, and it turns out that her dad is like, I think a reality TV either like star or presenter, that kind of thing. Basically a bit of a trashy personality, and so he suddenly has to look after his daughter. He's not had to his whole life, and it's about that. And then in the end, him and his PA and the girl playing the PA was probably the best thing about the show. I thought she was such a brilliant performer. They decide that it'd be a good idea for him to change his image because his previous image is failing, like he's not getting many good jobs now. So they decide that they should team up as like dad and daughter and make a TV show like about them and about sort of like becoming a family again, and it kind of goes downhill because it's reality TV. So I really enjoyed the concept, and I think this is one that would really benefit from being able to have more time, because generally at the Fringe the shows are around an hour. They don't have as much time, whereas I feel like this show, if it had the time and space to get a bit more nitty-gritty, it has a lot of promise. So I'll be intrigued to see what happens to that one in the future. So the next day, on the Monday, I started things off by seeing Sean's play, Paper Dolls, and oh god, I'm so proud of him. Obviously he's one of my best friends, so of course I was going to see him in Edinburgh, and this play is written by him, performed by him, like basically he's done everything. I did the photography, to be fair, but you know, he's done so much, and I knew that I was gonna be obviously proud of him anyway, but I did have this worry. I was like, what if the play is bad? And I can't say that, but genuinely it was really good, and I'm the type of person that had I thought it was bad, I probably would have like constructively told him that, but I honestly didn't. I thought it was so funny. The play Paper Dolls is about a guy called Billy who is running for local government, and his main campaign point is that he works in a John Lewis and he wants to make his changing rooms unisex. So that's like his campaign, and so it goes through the whole struggle of that. And Sean played like every character in the play, like it was literally just him. And at one point I think there was a conversation between like 9 different people, and Sean was jumping in between each and every person. My mind was just blown. I'm so proud of him. It was genuinely really good and so funny. I'm just so proud of him. Like, and that was his first Fringe, and you know, he's so young, and I feel like a proud mum. My friends Anthony and Amy had come up from Newcastle from the day, so it was really lovely to spend the day with them. So they saw Sean's play with me, and then we thought, oh, let's stick around in the same venue and see what was on next. So it was an opera piece called Hunger, and I'd seen the artwork for it. I'd read the description. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. This was probably the biggest disappointment for me from the Fringe. I don't really like opera, but I thought, you know, it's the Fringe Festival, I should give stuff a chance. Like, even if it's not necessarily my go-to thing, I should try it, and then at least I can say I've tried it. But this piece, I thought, even though it was performed well, none of us had a clue what was happening. And I think, okay, sure, it's an opera, but we should be able to grasp what's happening. And again, because it was such a short piece, they didn't necessarily dive into it much. Yeah. That one wasn't great. I honestly couldn't even tell you what it's really about, and even reading the description of the show afterwards, we were still like, what just happened? Thankfully, as the day progressed, we saw some better shows. So Anthony, Amy and I went to see a show, part of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. I hope I'm saying that name right, Conservatoire. They have, well, they're doing 3 shows. 2 are new, and then they're doing Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I didn't end up seeing. It was kind of on my list, but because that was a full-length show, I was like, that 2.5 hours I can spend seeing or doing other things. But I did see their 2 Legacy new musicals. So first of all, we saw Legacy, the Book of Names, and this is about the like immigration kind of centre, I don't think that's the right word for it, but the immigration area at Ellis Island in sort of the early 1900s. This was so beautifully done. I think it helps that it was quite a big cast, so it sounded very rich for the most part. but they were all incredibly talented. It was really well written. So we kind of got to see in detail not everyone, but like most people's struggles and like why they were there, why they wanted to move to America, and like all these little kind of like snapshots, and I just really enjoyed that. And I think because it was performed so well, it really had that like strong core structure. It kind of ticked all the boxes for me, and if I could see like again a more fleshed out version of it, because still that was only about an hour, I would love that. It was a really great show. After that we saw another new musical, and this was one that I was really excited for, and I think that might be why it disappointed me as much as it did. We went to see And Peggy. So this is a musical about Peggy Schuyler, who, if you aren't living under a rock, you'll have heard of from Hamilton, so that's like one of the fun lines. I had so much hope for this show. It just wasn't very good. Oh, I feel so bad saying it. I think that's the thing, because I had so many expectations for it. And I thought, oh my god, this could be really good. Because I've known from like some Hamilton related podcasts and things like that, like I know that Peggy Schuyler was a badass. Like I know some of the stuff that she did in her life, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited to learn more about it in a musical. And it just kind of missed the mark for me in a sense. It told us little bits here and there, but never really kind of got meaty with it. And then at the end there was this song about like how like the women were saying about how they were inspired by her, and we walked out and we were like, you didn't really tell us why they were inspired by her. And again, it was a sound issue as well, so even though the band was only a couple of people, I think, they oftentimes were drowning out the performers. You could tell that quite a few of the performers are like nervous, not as strong, and I don't want to sound horrible, but that's how it was. The girl playing Peggy Schuyler, I've forgotten her name right now, I'll put it up on screen. She was fantastic. I thought she was really good. So there's definitely promise there, but again, it's one that really just needs development. And that's not a surprise, because this is their first time out the gate, you know? So of course it's not going to be perfect the first time round. Every show, every production is different, and how much help they've had as well. So I'm excited for the future of it still, but I didn't love it this time round. We finished off the day by seeing Hot Gay Time Machine, which is kind of like a comedy musical. I'm not really like comedy musical, kind of cabaret-esque, but not cabaret. It's just a hilarious show. I have not laughed that much in a long time, and I ended up getting dragged on stage as well. So Edinburgh Fringe debut, who? Me. It was so much fun. One of the writers of Six co-wrote this, so Toby Marlowe, and then his friend Zach, and I don't know Zach's surname, but they were both fantastic, so funny. They really know how to work a crowd. Honestly, we were all laughing so much, and I was drinking quite a lot in Edinburgh. I'd say a lot. I wasn't like drunk all the time, but I was like having social drinks in between shows, and that definitely helped. But I think even if I were sober, it was so much fun. That was a fantastic way to end the evening, and yeah, I'm glad that Anthony and Amy could stick around to see that. Oh my god, it was just so much fun. Moving on to the second full day in Edinburgh, I started off the morning by seeing a show called Sirach City and Other Destinations. This was a pretty random pick. I was just scrolling through the Fringe app the night before, and I saw this, I saw that it was a musical, and I thought, oh, that sounds really interesting. And oh my gosh, I am so glad that I went to see it. It was really not what I was expecting. It was so much better than like I thought it was going to be. It started off in a diner, kind of on the side of an American highway, I guess, is that the right word? And so there was the waitress and this guy who was passing through. He's reading like a tourist book, a newspaper or something. They get chatting, and it turns out that he's going to Sirach City. He's kind of on a journey of self-discovery. Somehow it ends up that the waitress is going to join him, so they go on this kind of road trip together, and I think she's kind of all about facing some of her own fears as well. That's kind of a common thread throughout the show. Then it changes and you see people at loads of various tourist destinations. So there's a couple of schoolboys that are bunking off school to go to Coney Island, and there's some sisters on a cruise ship around some sort of like glacier area, I can't remember where now, and they are scattering their father's ashes. There's a bride at Niagara Falls contemplating if she even wants to go through with her marriage. So loads of different really interesting snapshots, and the music was really strong, the performances were great. It was just one of those things where I was like, wow, I didn't even know that this was an option for me to see, and I just randomly came across it. It was quite an early show, it was at 10:10 in the morning, but I'm so glad that I saw that, and I really enjoyed it. The next show that I saw was the other Legacy musical, because they, like, one of them, the Book of Names, runs on even days and the Mother Song runs on odd days. I think that's right. They run like one day after the other. So I wasn't sure if these stories would be kind of related at all, but no, they're completely different. A Mother Song is obviously about kind of motherhood. It focuses first on a lesbian couple who have just bought a house, they're moving in. Even though I say that obviously they're a lesbian couple, it didn't like focus on that at all, and I thought it was really refreshing, because normally if the LGBTQ plus community are in a musical, that's kind of the focus of it, like musical or play. That is the thing about it, whereas this, it completely wasn't. They were just a couple, you know, and that was just really refreshing. I really enjoyed seeing that. So they've moved into this house, they're going through boxes, and there's the main girl, Sarah, and I've forgotten what her girlfriend's name is. I feel really bad. But Sarah's got this like box of family stuff, and her girlfriend says, oh, that box has gone through X amount of moves, you've not looked through it, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, it's just family stuff. She then starts going through it, and there are these like tape recorders, and it turns out that it's her aunt, I believe, who is documenting these like traditional songs that have been passed through the family, and then she sort of talks more about the various mothers in the family and how they came to be mothers. And then we see, did I just say her name Sarah? I think it was Sarah. Presumably we see her mother and her grandmother, and we get to see their lives and how they became mothers. And it was just a really interesting narrative style of being like in the past, the very past, and then the present all at the same time, and how we got to see what was happening as kind of Sarah, the main character, was hearing about it and discovering it, and then how her feelings towards motherhood changed. It was just a really interesting story. I loved the way it was told, and again, because it was by the Royal Conservatoire, it was really strong performances, really strong story, and I just really bloody enjoyed it. And I've actually said to friends since, I'm like, if you've only got time to see one of the Legacy shows, they're both brilliant, so try and see both of them if you can. But because of the story and how different and fresh it is, I'm like, go see A Mother Song if you can only see one of them. I loved it, and again, would really like to see more of it. The next show that I originally wanted to see had sold out, unfortunately. I was stupid and I didn't book the ticket soon enough. So instead, I was kind of flapping about a bit, and I was like, what show should I see? Like, I want to see a show, because my aim was to hit 20 shows. So once I got that into my head, I was like, I need to see 20 shows. So I thought actually it'd be really fun to go and see the Showstoppers team again, because I have seen the Showstoppers in London and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun, and I thought it'd be interesting to visit the Pleasance in Edinburgh, because I live quite locally to the Pleasance in London. So I thought, oh, that'll be fun. I've never actually been to the Pleasance in London, but that'll be fun to kind of visit the Edinburgh version. It's probably the original one, I'm not sure. And with the Showstoppers, it is an improvised musical, so I was like, well, it technically is going to be a new musical, so why the hell not? And I'm really glad that I picked this. It's just so much fun. I think anyone could go along and at least try and see the Showstoppers. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but at least then you can say you've tried it. My mind is just blown at how they do this, how they improv so quickly. I'm just fascinated by it. I am so completely blown away, and I'll talk more about the musical they did in the Showstoppers vlog, because I do want to chat about that, about seeing it in London and here, because I don't think I ever did the vlog from seeing it in London, so I'll chat about it all there. Next up, I saw a play. So I didn't obviously see that many plays while in Edinburgh, mostly musicals, but this was another one where the show I originally wanted to see had sold out. So this one was set in like a hotel meeting room, and the other show was also in one of the hotel's meeting rooms because it was the space venues. So I just thought, oh well, I'm here, I may as well just book this rather than running around trying to find anything else. So this was a play called Stiffs, and it's about two guys who wake up in a morgue, and then they're trying to figure out what happened, how they died, what's going on. It was a two-hand play and it was just really funny. Obviously I was a bit disappointed about the fact the other show had sold out because that was a musical. It was a new musical, and obviously I'm all about trying to see new musicals, but I walked out of this, like when the play finished I then left, and I was like, I'm actually really glad that I saw that. It was just really funny, a really interesting concept. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. And it was really nice as well, that kind of spontaneity of, well, this is on, I'm here, why not see it? And then it actually paid off and I really enjoyed it. So that was a winner. The last show that I saw on the Tuesday was a sort of cabaret burlesque. I'm not really sure what category she's put it under, but it was a friend of Sam's, Sam for God, who you probably know, and she has a show called Frida Love. So I wanted to obviously go and support anyone who I knew that was in Edinburgh. I wanted to try and support their shows if I could fit them in, because obviously most people just do one show a day and it's just squeezing everything into the timetable. But I'm really glad I got to see her show. Honestly, she has so much confidence. I couldn't do that. I mean, to put on a show in Edinburgh, especially as like a one person show, that takes guts. And yeah, I really enjoyed her show actually. It was really quirky, really different. It was like story mixed with comedy, mixed with music. I don't know how to describe the story in a succinct way without kind of spoiling anything, but no, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice kind of late night one to, I say late night, it started at 10 o'clock, I think, around that time. It was a nice one to finish off the evening with. So I'm really glad I went, and I'm glad that I could support her, because I think that's a nice thing about the Fringe, like supporting, even if it's like creative teams that you know, people really appreciate that support. So that's always nice. The next day I started things off with a bit of a random show. Again, this was just scrolling through the app and seeing what was happening. It was called the Joni Mitchell story, and the description of the show made it kind of sound like it was going to be a bit Beautiful-esque. So I thought, I'll give it a try. Why not? I know a couple of Joni Mitchell songs, but I thought it'd be the same case as with Beautiful, in that I would know more songs than I thought I did, and it was kind of the case. But the structure of the show kind of disappointed me, because it was more like a PowerPoint presentation on a projector above the sort of stage area, and then a couple of performers, very talented people, performing Joni Mitchell songs kind of in between bits of information, but it wasn't like a story like Beautiful. If you've seen it, it was like info via the presentation and then songs, and then towards the end of the show they were telling us a bit more of the info. It wasn't my cup of tea because I was expecting more from it, but saying that, it wasn't awful and people enjoyed it, and that's the main thing. The next show I saw was a musical called 89 Nights, a new musical. This is a show that's been on my list for like ages now, ever since I was first flicking through the Fringe programme, because I really liked the artwork, and then I really liked the idea, and then I saw the Fringe preview, I really enjoyed it. I originally thought before that, I was like, oh well, if I've seen it at the other Palace, I don't need to see it at the Fringe, I can see something else. But after seeing the preview, I'm really enjoying it. I wanted to see more of it. I wanted to see how they were going to be in a bigger space and how they would like develop it a bit further after the preview, and I'm so glad I did. It's a really cute little musical, and it's about a British girl who's over in New York, and the 89 nights is the length of her Esther, so the length of her stay. The show is quite a nice light one, which I really enjoyed, because sometimes you just want to see a musical that's not kind of gonna put you in an anxiety attack. You know, you don't want something that's too stressful, and I really enjoy just how kind of like heartwarming this show is. It's like, this is so weird, this is the first thing that just popped into my head as I was thinking of what to say, but it's like a soup on a winter's day, like a nice warm lunchtime soup on a winter's day, and I'm sure the team of 89 Nights will really appreciate that description. I need some sleep. After that I saw another new musical, and I saw The Mold That Changed the World. So this is about the discovery of like penicillin. Definitely one of the most random concepts for a musical I've ever heard of, but I did really enjoy it. It had a massive cast actually. I'd say out of everything I saw, the biggest casts were in the legacy shows and this one. This probably had like, I'd say over 20 people. I don't know. But no, I really enjoyed it. Again, it was one of those that could definitely do with a bit more time just to flesh out a little bit. But I liked how they told the story. The music was really good. I'm hoping they might have some of it online so I can listen to it again. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Definitely the weirdest concept ever. And then to finish off that day, we went to see Six again because I'm Six trash. I booked my ticket as soon as we like left Six on Sunday night. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go see that again. I booted out another show to see this, and I wanted to see it again because I bloody love it. It's so good. Also because Grace, who is the swing for Six, she covers literally all 6 parts, which is mind-blowing. She was having her debut as Jane Seymour, so we really wanted to go along and support her, and oh my god. Oh, I'm obsessed. I'm gonna save my full fangirling for the full vlog, but and I'm not ashamed. You can't shame me for that. On the final day, I managed to squeeze in 3 more shows, and that put me up to 20 theatre visits altogether, 19 shows, whatever, I'm gonna say 20. So I started off the day with a new musical called Armour, and this was about, it's like Armour, the herstory behind the Scottish Bard. I think that's like the full title. It's about Robert Burns, who I don't know a huge amount about, to be honest, but it was about the women in his life, and I really loved this. This was set in a really small hotel meeting room, and it was just gorgeous. I thought the story was really interesting. It's really fascinating at the moment how many herstory musicals are coming about, and I'm certainly not complaining because it's about time. The music in this was gorgeous. The 3-woman cast, yeah, 3-woman cast, and 1 person on keys, I think. It was just gorgeous, and I'd say the performances blew me away, and I completely forgot that we were in just this tiny room. You know, it was that good, and they were like multi-role like performances. Oh my god, it was just so good. And then the penultimate show of the trip was a real curveball of a show. So again, this was one that I booked quite last minute, really. Sean had mentioned that last year at the Fringe, I believe, he'd seen a show that was literally in a car. They have one like that again this year, so I thought, you know what? When else am I gonna watch something that's set in a car apart from like at the Edinburgh Fringe? Though funnily enough, I don't know if they're bringing this same one down to London. Something similar is going to be happening in London soon. But I just thought this is going to be such a wacky experience. Let's do it. So it was just me, I went on my own, and then there were 4 other audience members in total, and we all sat in this car, obviously with the performer in the driver's seat, and it was about a car crash that had just happened, and then for the next 45 minutes she was trying to recall what had happened and kind of going off in other sort of tangents about her life and what had led to this point. And my god, it was so intense, like one of the most different intense theatre experiences that I've ever had, and I'm so glad I did it because it felt so Fringe. And the final show of the trip was another new musical called Buried, which has been at the Pleasance Theatre recently. I unfortunately missed it because I think I was just crazy busy that week, but people have been raving about this one, so I knew I definitely wanted to try and see it. It's about 2 serial killers that end up meeting each other and then like falling in love. So a very wacky premise for a show. The music is folk inspired, so that's another thing that kind of drew me in because we don't really get that many folk inspired musicals. I really enjoyed it. A couple of friends that have seen it didn't love it as much as I did. I really liked the music. I thought it was such an interesting premise. It was just so bonkers, you know? And the cast were really good. This one was set in a lecture hall, like the location of it. And I think that kind of affected it for me in terms of like the sound quality and things like that, because that's such a weird venue to have something set in. But no, I really, really enjoyed it. Their cast recording is on Spotify, so I've been enjoying listening back to it. It's definitely like my cup of tea. so I'd be very happy to see it again. In brief, that is everything that I saw at the Edinburgh Fringe this year. So my first Edinburgh Fringe, I've done it, I loved it. I'm already really missing out on like everything else that's happening in Edinburgh this month. I feel a lot of FOMO and I'm already very excited for next year's Edinburgh Fringe. Hopefully I'll be able to go up, fingers crossed. I had so much fun and it was really nice to be there when obviously Sean was performing, so we got to hang out a lot when Anthony and Amy came up for the day. Sean's friend Abby, who now I am friends with as well, and our friend Ellie, who also came up. It was just such a fun-filled and packed few days. I had the best time. Obviously there will be vlogs coming out for I'd say a majority of the shows that I've just talked about, so if you're interested to hear my full thoughts on any of these shows, make sure you're subscribed so you can see those. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and let me know if you've been at the Edinburgh Fringe and if you've seen any of these same shows, or just tell me what you've been to see anyway, because I would love to know what you've been to see at the Edinburgh Fringe. I hope you're all doing really well and I will see you in my next video. Bye!